Welcome back to another episode of Disabled Girls Who Live podcast. Of course, we thank you for your support here on the podcast, wherever you're listening, leaving your little reviews, giving us money on Patreon, sharing our posts, all of that good stuff. We appreciate you. We have just me coming in today. This is Marcia, she, they on Seminole Tribe land in Florida. I am a Black femme. I've got my champagne rose beats on today, my clear glasses, a mauve shirt, and I'm sitting in front of my painted wall. So I'm going to introduce our guest and then she will say hello. So we have Brandi Walker today from Virginia on Powhatan land. I'm sorry I didn't Google that. I hope I pronounced it at least close to correct.
You did good.
All right, I did my best. Brandi is a personal trainer and artiste with narcolepsy. Last year, she opened a gym dedicated to defining the vision of strength, health, and wellness that considers all people. We're talking disabled people, queer people, anyone whose body doesn't conform to defined standards or expectations. The space is also home to a diverse group of independent personal trainers. And she also is working to open a small community and event space that provides a safe, vibrant space that benefits the RVA community. So, lots of this is so awesome. And we are so happy that Brandi made time in her schedule to speak with us.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This is really awesome. Yeah.
It is awesome. So I actually haven't been on the past couple of episodes, so it's now Mary Beth's turn to go through it, and my turn to be present. Only one person can have a crisis at a time. So, but you already understand what I mean by that, right? Like, I don't have to explain that. You know exactly what I'm talking about because you have narcolepsy.
Oh, yeah.
But for people that just know narcolepsy from like that one movie where the girl tied her hair to not fall asleep on dates, like, can you let us know what it's about?
What movie is that, though?
Oh, I might be aging myself, but it's like an old movie.
I'm also just really bad. I just like even the movies I've seen, I don't remember. It's bad. But yeah, narcolepsy. So definitely a lot of misconceptions because of the way it's depicted in like Hollywood and movies and things. Um, a lot of times it's depicted as someone who just like falls asleep randomly. But in reality, it's a lot more complex and less obvious than that. So the symptoms can vary a lot per person, but generally the the symptoms that kind of across the board people with narcolepsy experience, the most significant being excessive daytime sleepiness, regardless of like how much like how much sleep the person is getting and how they're taking care of their body. It's just like consistently an issue. And then additionally, there's other symptoms like cataplexy, which is not all people with narcolepsy have, but it's a condition that when the person experiences like extreme or like more intense emotions like excitement or fear, their body essentially tries to go into REM sleep, which paralyzes itself. And it can be anything from like just like a minor little like knee buckle to a full on like body collapse kind of
Okay,
situation.
well, that sounds scary as shit. Cool.
Yes, I don't have that, but and like it's something that could develop, so I'm really hoping it doesn't because it's definitely like scary because that shit could happen when you're like deadlifting or something, and that would be really bad.
Right.
Um, so and then there's other symptoms too that deal with like the actual sleep, so like crazy, bizarre dreams, lucid dreaming, and then also like okay, I can't say this word, so you're gonna you need to help me. But sleep paralysis, I can't say it. How like when you're
Paralysis?
paralyzed? Yes, thank you. I can never say that word, and I'm always like uncomfortable when I have to because I'm like, okay, I need someone around me to help me say this.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a common one where the body's still paralyzed from REM sleep, but the person wakes up and it's usually combined with like negative hallucinations, plus then like hallucinations falling asleep and waking up and kind of different things. So like narcolepsy has a lot more going on than the tiredness, but actually and then for some people they do fall asleep, but for a lot of people rather there's like this intense like exhaustion and desire to go to sleep, but they might not
Right.
go to sleep against their will. So
That's
that's
a
a lot
lot.
of information.
So,
But
how could somebody figure out that maybe I have narcolepsy versus, let's say, POTS or just dysautonomia in general, or just the fact that autoimmune diseases come with fatigue?
yeah, I'm so that's one of the challenges. And so this is still considered a rare disease, and it's pretty frequently misdiagnosed or missed for years. So I think like don't quote me on this, but I believe the average for like years before being diagnosed is like maybe 7 or more than that. It's like a ridiculous number. And part of it is because the symptoms mirror those of other illnesses. But a big thing is if there's more than simply the like daytime sleepiness or like daytime fatigue. So like if there's the hallucinations or other symptoms, that's an indicator. But also if the person has already gone through testing and found out that um they don't have maybe the other
Everything
diagnosis.
else, yeah.
Yes, so then a sleep study is a good idea because even if it's not narcolepsy, it could be another sleep disorder. And so when you get that done, you do the overnight sleep test and then you do a sleep latency test, which is the next day. And it's five or so different naps. Um, and they're looking to see you fall asleep within a certain average. And if your brain goes into REM sleep within um, those 15 minutes of the nap, because technically your brain should not go into REM sleep until like 90 minutes into sleeping. So that's the whole thing with narcolepsy is your
Like you
sleep
go
cycle.
straight to like you skip some parts.
Yes, you skip, you jump around, you spend too much time in REM sleep. So that's also why during the day, the sleepiness sometimes can be the body trying to force itself into like REM sleep. Basically, the brain can't regulate your sleep cycles correctly.
Right.
And so they can test that. So they look to see like, I think it's like within 7 minutes you fall asleep. So like my average, I fell asleep within 2 minutes for all my naps as an average.
Mm-hmm.
And then 3 out of 5 of them, I went into REM sleep. So they look at like the majority. If you do that, then you're diagnosed with narcolepsy.
Wow. But that's pretty much the only defining factor is that sleep study. It's not like some of these autoimmune conditions, where it's like, oh, it's just this blood work. Like you got it or you probably don't.
Yeah,
Like it's a
yeah.
whole process.
It's a whole process. It's not a great experience. At least mine wasn't.
It
It's
sounds
not
long. It sounds sterile. It sounds scary. It sounds probably expensive.
all the things.
It doesn't sound like a good vibe.
And even after that too, like the process of working with doctors and trying to manage and like figure out how to go through life now with this diagnosis has sucked. Like doctors, the sleep doctors, my experiences with them has not been great. I haven't really
Mm,
felt like a person around them in many ways. And there's just a
yeah.
lot of also like barriers because of the medications are often regulated. So in order to get my medicine, I have to go to the doctor every 3 months. And it's like not a cheap visit for 15 minutes for them to be like, "Are you good?" And I'm like, "Yep." And then they prescribe a medicine.
Yeah.
So it's
Some dumb
just,
shit. It's some really,
yeah,
they make it, the people that need the most access, they make it as convoluted as possible. Oh, you need this? Here are 10 steps. Like,
yeah. And
why?
and like you already know I have this illness that like isn't great for driving and like going places all the time, yet you're forcing me to come here. We couldn't do like a Zoom call or something.
Yeah, the math isn't mathing on that one. It's not
No.
adding up. Were you recently diagnosed or is this like an adulthood thing?
Well, it is kind of like more recent. So I guess
Okay.
in June it'll be 2 years.
Oh, that is recent.
Yes. So I'm still figuring
You're just
things
a
out.
toddler.
Yeah.
You're just learning how to take steps. I'm
Yes.
just a baby. Ooh. Well,
I'm
do you
just now
look
getting
back?
to, huh,
No, go
sorry.
ahead.
I was gonna say,
Go
I'm just
ahead.
getting to the point now where I'm like, okay, it's starting to piece things together that work and don't
No,
work.
legit, like you're a toddler, like you just started walking without falling.
Yeah.
Like you're barely two. Do you look back on things in your childhood? You're like, oh shit, that tracks now.
Well, the interesting thing about narcolepsy is it's something that can develop later in life. It's not inherently.
Oh, it doesn't have to be like
Yeah, so
congenital at birth
I had a
forever.
life before narcolepsy. So also some of the frustrations is
Mm,
I can remember what it was like to not feel this way.
yeah,
And so it's sometimes really frustrating because I have limitations I didn't before. So I'd say like for me, it started developing in college because that's when I started being like, something is off. Like I'm like a weird level of tired. Like this is strange. And it just kind of continued to worsen. And I had
mm,
like talked to doctors, and of course they weren't sending me in the right direction. So
no, they don't believe us.
yeah.
But yeah, I could relate very much to that because my issue is not necessarily even figured out totally. But anyways, it's not necessarily I didn't have these problems, 6 years ago. So there was a before times, like I think about the
Yeah.
days that I used to do powerlifting training like 4 fucking days a week, 2 hours long. And now I'm just like, oh, if I do it once, right for me. Like
I completely feel you. Like that's something I've struggled a lot with this process is how it's changed my ability to like move my body. Like I just can't do what I could do before the symptoms like fully came on. Like if I do that, my next day is like completely exhausted.
big facts, big facts. And I have to like explain to people like, no, no, I promise, like I am actually intelligent. I'm just tired right now. Like there's also the mental capacity shift that is hard
Yeah,
to navigate.
the brain fog. That's a big
It's
part of it too. Like yeah, I felt like I was just like wandering through a swamp like up to my neck before my
mm,
diagnosis. Like it felt like I was constantly swimming and like trapped between this weird in between of awakeness and sleep.
felt
Yeah. So
yeah, not a
it's
vibe,
a
not
bizarre thing.
recommended. I don't
No.
recommend it. I don't think anybody should be going there.
No.
So it's interesting because we are in the similar vibe as chronically ill people that run their own businesses because that sounds like how could you be able to do that and why would you choose to do that? Right?
Uh
Like that's something probably people are gonna think about.
because I'm insane is part of it, but yeah, it's one of those things where, again, like some of this process started before things like fully hit me, but then also actually it's really important because it allows me to set my own schedule so I can manage my symptoms. Whereas, like, I literally couldn't have like a normal job where I go and I'm there for like 7, 8 hours.
Exactly, yeah.
I had to do things in little pieces. So,
Exactly. I need just 3 hours to wake up in the morning. You want me to be where? When? Nah.
yes. So like there's definitely challenges like with running a business, but there's also like the things that really benefit, you know, us who can't have just like a traditional work life. Um, and I think in a lot of ways in my particular field, it makes me a better trainer and better able to work with people with a variety of like health issues and their own chronic illnesses. Cause like I like firsthand get it. Like there's some days that just you can't.
Right. Right. So how do you navigate because you didn't just open the gym, you train people also in the gym.
Yes.
So then how do you navigate showing up for people when you're like bare minimum, low battery, Jeb?
Yeah, well, definitely so much being able to do the things is making sure I'm managing myself well. So like sleep schedule's got to be consistent. Food, like if I'm not eating enough and regularly, like I die.
Mm-hmm.
Um, again, like being thoughtful about my schedule. And then sometimes just being like, I'm sorry, I'm not doing okay today. I need to reschedule.
Okay, yeah.
So there is that flexibility of like I am working directly with them, so I can reschedule and cancel if I need to. And sometimes that happens where I'm like, I'm literally like falling asleep right now in this session. I need to like stop after this one. Um, so that happens. And like I think a lot of this last couple years has been learning like what I can do and can't do in terms of like how I set up my schedule. Um,
Right, like the time of day that works, or like the length of times,
Yeah, for
or
sure.
right.
I had to change my morning sessions because at one point I was like doing like 8:30 and I was like, that's too early for me. Every or not 8:30, I was doing 8 a.m.s. And while that doesn't
That's
sound maybe
disgusting.
that early
No.
to some people, waking up at like 7 was way too early. And I was miserable those days. And like simply making a few changes like that made a big difference.
Yeah, that's disgusting to me.
Yeah.
8? No.
It, I know
I cannot.
it's hard
Fuck
because
that.
normal people work hours that they can't train when I want to train, you know? So there's kind of a struggle with that. So,
Right, that makes sense. I can very much relate to that because running my business has its stresses, and thankfully I have someone to help me with like admin, big brain time stuff. But at least when I have a day where like shit hits the fan, like I will literally just text people like, I'm gonna have to cancel today, and nobody's gonna be like, oh my God, why? Oh my God, but my kid needs therapy. Oh my, they're just gonna be like, all right, cool. And then if they're not that kind of person, it's my business. I'm gonna be like, yeah, we're not a good fit. Like, you know? So being able
exactly.
to
Yeah.
have that freedom does make a difference. Working in a conventional setting, it's like for the most part, whoever shows up, you have to serve them whenever the person that employs you tells you, right? Like
Hmm.
it's very tough to find accommodating employment. So it's not like disabled people don't want to work. Like we love being home all day. Wow. Like
Totally. Or just like even like maybe the way people would treat you in that work setting because you have different needs. Like especially like when having like illnesses like mine and what it sounds like you're struggling with, everyone kind of gets a sense of being tired, but like this is like a different experience than that. And that's like the hard thing that people understand. So there's like that additional frustration of people trying to tell you like what you need to do to make it better, and you're like, you don't get it though.
yeah. But you're
Like,
young. But you're young. You look fine. Have you
yeah.
tried going vegan? Maybe you should just cut out dairy. Like I promise you, if it was just fucking milk, like I would have solved that a long time ago. Thank
I
you.
know. I wish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that gets very annoying. Um, so in terms of your diagnosis, you're a toddler. In terms of your business, it's also new, right?
Yes.
So you're growing both of what were you doing before?
Well, I guess there's several things going on there. Well, so my business first started personal training independently and I was still in school because I just started personal training when I was in school. I went to VCU for sculpture and I was like not into, working for like a corporate like kind of company with it was very clear to me like how they were um just like taking advantage of the clients and then also just like underpaying the trainers who, were really valuable. And
Yeah.
so then right before the pandemic hit, decided I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna try being independent, which I'm glad I did because I would have lost my job anyways. And so then I was like training outside. My car became like this little mobile like gym equipment space. And I was meeting people at the parks and creating
Smart.
relationships that way, and then started like training, paying to train other spaces. So then I ended up in a space that like I despised because it was just like masculine, like gross vibes. Like
Shredded trad bros.
I was just miserable. And like also all this was going on during the process of getting my diagnosis. I was like miserable because that wasn't resolved. I was exhausted and like just feeling really unhappy. And then I was like, man, it'd be really cool if there was like a gym that was like this and these ideas. And I have these clients that are like organizers and just people with a lot of great resources. And like, you could do that. I'm like, no, I couldn't do that. And they're like, you could. And they got me like in contact with some other people who had similar values and ideas. And because of that, like those people already had some equipment and things. So they brought to the table resources that made it a viable
Wow.
option. So then I found this space and we created this gym. So it is like specifically more for like personal trainers who are independent. So
Hmm.
it's an affordable place for them to run their businesses. So they have their autonomy. So like I'm not anybody's boss. But then I also make sure they're trainers who like fit our value
Right.
system. So they're
Not
like,
just anybody.
yeah, like inclusive, well informed, like body positive, and just like um, queer friendly humans. So that happened. That's been happening. I train still, and then just opened another space because
Wowzers.
I can't calm down.
Is
Also
it
have generalized
connected?
anxiety.
Is
So
it well, okay, well, we're not going to talk about that. It sounds like a trauma response. I need you to talk to I'm not that kind of therapist, so we're not talking about
no, it's like
that.
so
Is
kind
it
of
the same
connected.
space or something, or is it like something that
So
popped up?
my it's the same landlord. I'm renting a
Okay,
second
landlord.
building, but it's literally so close to the other building, and it was like a great opportunity because my landlord is like super sweet and lovely, which is like hard to find.
Mm,
So this was like a really good opportunity, and since having the space, the original space, Body Arc, open, we've had a lot of interest in people using it for events and other things that don't necessarily, function well in like a gym setting.
right.
I
You
was
can't
like,
just
there's
move
a
racks around all the time.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And I was like, there's a need for space for people to be able to hold like social related kind of events. So the opportunity kind of like popped up, and then we just had our opening party over the weekend. So now it's like this event community
Brand
space.
new.
Yes. And already like scheduling some really exciting events
Oh
for the
shit.
community. Like next weekend, there's gonna be a drag workshop and drag show for the BIPOC community, and working with several other people to schedule some more things so yeah, so that's happening.
That's pretty cool. So these things are like totally solo business endeavors, or like you have a partner or somebody that you could work with, or is
They are
100% on
solo.
you?
They're solo.
Yeah.
I have like people in my life who lend a hand and help where they can. I have someone who's gonna come on with the second space a little bit more so, but ultimately like the business stuff is like
Mm-hmm.
full on me crushing me at times, So
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm. Mm. Interesting. Should take notes for your take notes for your next therapy session. This is it's
No, no,
giving
no.
me it's
No,
giving a lot of a
it's actually
busy.
really it's good. It's like the way I approached this was in a way that
Yeah.
like I knew I could do it
Yeah,
for
yeah.
in myself, and like the gym space like basically runs itself. Like that takes
Yeah.
minimal time from me. And this other space for me is really a huge art project. So it's kind of like an installation piece where the
Mm-hmm.
community gets to interact with the space,
Yeah.
and so much of it was like a physical thing. And so like I do a lot of like
Mm-hmm.
building and things with tools. So like I didn't need to outsource and do things for that.
Yeah.
So
Just in case anyone's like not clear, I was fucking with her. That was a joke. But
sorry.
it sounds like it's a great way for you to put what your passions are in real life, but in on your own terms, right? Because you have the gym
Yeah.
thing, which was supposed to be what sounds like your side hustle.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think so. I've been kind of figuring out like what's the things that make it easier to wake up in the
Hmm.
morning. And even though the stuff is like exhausting in its own ways, like it gives me a sense of energy in life that like really helps me manage my narcolepsy. Um, and that's something I'm kind of figuring out still. And even though like, yeah, it's challenging, it just like it ultimately makes me happy. So
Yeah, it's something you look forward to. It's not just like, well, fuck, here comes another day of sludge I gotta drag myself to through. Like,
totally. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, that's a rough feeling. But how do you manage doing all of that, like business back end, and then you're seeing people, so you cancel people when you don't have the energy. But what about your business stuff? Like, what if you can't do, I don't know, your taxes on time because
Well,
you're fucking
yeah.
wrecked?
I mean, it's all like time management, and I
Mm-hmm.
manage my time knowing my illness. And like I mentioned casually, the anxiety, like honestly, I think my anxiety combined with the narcolepsy allows me to function, even though it like sucks for me. But um
Is this gonna turn into one of those this is my superpower things?
it's like a power that harms me but also allows me to function in some ways. But
Wow.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mean it's not easy, but I think well the beauty too about my training is I'm able to I only train maybe like 24 hours or so a week. So that still
Hmm.
leaves me time to do other things. And since I can do it around my own schedule, like that's the key thing. If I have to do something when I'm having like a narcolepsy episode, when I'm feeling like completely exhausted, that's not realistic and doable. But
Hmm.
luckily, these are all things that like have le some level of flexibility, you know? So if it's something that has a deadline, I try to generally get it done as early as I can so that I don't have to run into like the fear of not having the energy later. So like when
Right.
there is energy one day, like if I can do it, I try to do it, you know?
Yeah, everything is kind of fluid, just constantly shifting.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's definitely like key in how I make it happen.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And also just asking for help when I can. And like fortunately I've like built a really good community here and um they really help support me as well, friends and my partner. Sometimes
Hmm.
I'm literally like laying in bed, like I can't get up, and my partner like brings me caffeine and like picks me out of bed in the mornings. And
Hmm.
so like I think having that support is very, very important too.
Oh yeah, that shit's definitely life changing. I'm sure. Um, so your partner lives with you and kind of helps you like day to day, and then you have people that support your businesses. So like you're just surrounded by
Yeah,
community in all aspects.
definitely. Well, I just like
Yeah.
fell into yeah, a job where I get to meet a lot of different people that have different resources and knowledge and they just like help so much. So I just learned to kind of vocalize like questions and things. And sometimes people were like, I know somebody who does that that can do that. And I'm like,
Mm.
cool, okay.
Yeah, but that's not always easy to do, even just like recognizing, like, well, shit, I should ask for help. Like, that's like
Definitely not. Yeah.
a whole ego thing right there. It's because then you're like, well, if I can't be self-sufficient, then what does that mean about me? Like, relax.
Totally. I
Yeah.
definitely struggle with that with like the physical building like stuff.
Hmm.
Like, no, I can do it. It's like a challenge. I'm like, I can do it. But
Yeah.
like, but also like I don't have to do this and make myself
Yeah.
miserable.
Do
So
you have like you can, but should you? Do you
yes,
have
yes,
to? Is the
exactly.
difference. Yeah. Okay, so I forgot to mention earlier that we do take a small break, which is literally just not talking for 5 seconds. So we could do that now before we shift topics.
That sounds good
Just
to me.
easier.
Cool.
Alrighty, we're back. So we're talking about the gym, managing business, asking for help. Ask for fucking help. Somebody write that down on a sticky note if you need it, because I know I needed that for in the beginning. But I would like to hear more about your managing your time, not necessarily managing your time, managing your actual movement practice for yourself, like fitness and whatever
Yeah.
you're doing.
Yeah, that's definitely not fully resolved. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I don't know if it ever truly is, but that's been kind of a difficult thing since like the full onset of my symptoms. Before that, I was like very much lifting a lot, like working out like 6 times a week out of just like pleasure of that. Um,
What's your go-to?
Now I'm just like, well, now it's extremely fluid. So one, back in I've had to learn that one, like during those times I wasn't nearly as active as I am with my job. So now, like
True.
training several hours every day and moving dynamically throughout that. And I realized like I had to take that into account too. Um, so in general, like for my energy, I just can't do as many intentional or intensive workouts while still training at the capacity that I am. but also I find my body just like struggles to recover from workouts so
Yeah.
much more. And that's largely because sleep is huge when
Yeah,
it
the
comes
sleep is
to
already
recovery.
off.
Oh yeah, my sleep's just like forever fucked and there's no way to
Right.
fix it. Um, so now like most recently when I basically had like a month and a half to get this new space like ready for the opening date. So pretty much then I like didn't worry about working out because I knew between my sessions and moving and working on stuff in the space, my body was getting movement that it needed, and it was more important that I had the energy to be able to do these things. And
Right.
I just like started realizing like I have to sacrifice working out in that way because it literally can destroy me. So
Right.
like I worked out yesterday and today I've been so freaking exhausted and like uncomfortable. So yeah, it's kind of very fluid place. If I have the time and energy for it, then I'd say like I try to get in those intentional workouts a lot of times now, actually, sometimes like with clients in ways that's more like enjoyable too, of like spending time with someone.
Hmm.
But also more so like functional movements, less lifting. I've had to step back from I
Like
was definitely
barbell lifts.
yeah, like I
Yeah.
can't deadlift and squat in the ways that I still kind of bench, but those just like can destroy me for several days after.
No, I relate to that. I haven't
Yeah.
deadlifted like since 2021, maybe.
Yeah.
There's
But
no
it's
way I
so
could squat, bench, and deadlift in the same week. Like,
yeah, but it's so
yeah,
frustrating. So I was like, it wasn't that long ago that I was doing insane shit. I'm like, how was
right.
I doing Bulgarian split squats with like a 25-pound dumbbell? Now I'm like, I just like show a single one of those and I'm like, okay, I'm done. I'm done for the week.
Yeah.
I'm dead.
Yeah. It's a wild concept.
Yeah.
Shit changes and life comes at you fast. Like, whoa, slow down. Yeah. I don't think I deadlifted for real since like 2021. And then when shit really hits the fan, the squat has to go too. Yeah.
Yeah.
The
Do you
compound
find,
moves just fucking
does it leave
snatches
you
everything.
fatigued out like afterwards?
Oh, definitely. Or it's not even afterwards. It's like there I cannot scrounge anything and there's nothing left in me to scrape together to put that weight on my back.
I feel you. I
Yeah.
feel you.
So there's also that. So it kind of sucks because barbell sports, also like strongman, like that was like I enjoyed it. Like that shit's fun. Like I loved getting into like yoke was my favorite. Like I used to do like 500 plus yoke walks. Like that shit's like wow, this is a blast. But now I'm just like, oof,
Yeah.
honey, I don't know if we could do that anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely understand. I'm like living vicariously through my clients. So I'm like, yeah, you lift that heavy thing and I'm like, woo, cheering from the sidelines, like at
Yeah.
least getting that kind of secondhand enjoyment out of it. But yeah, it's not the same. And that's been a
No.
hard thing to process as well.
It's a lot of grief, a lot of grief for sure. I've switched to learning Olympic lifting because at least you keep it lighter and have different kinds of progress. But yeah, it's still not the same. I still
Yeah.
might watch somebody doing some stone lifts and be like, oh man. The other thing that changed for me, I don't know, does environment play a role for me, for you? Because the other thing that changed for me is like I can't stand being out in the sun anymore.
Well, I think less of that for me since like I now have this space that I've gotten to like, curate and design and feel like
Hmm.
truly comfortable and safe in. Um, it's really just more like, I don't know, I just like don't get lost in it in the way that like I once did, at least like those styles of lifting.
Yeah,
Um,
no, it's not the same. Yeah, so that there's definitely a lot of grief just knowing like well, I used to be able to do a whole competition outside, and now I'm like, I go grocery shopping, and I'm like, God,
yeah.
woo, I need to lay down. Like,
Yeah. Totally.
stupid. It's so dumb.
Well, yeah, like how the hell was I a full-time art student with a job and doing all the stuff that I was doing? Like, I genuinely have no idea how I was doing
Yeah,
all that now. And I'm like, oh my God. I mean, I wasn't doing great towards the end because things were starting to happen to my body,
Right,
but
but you're just pushing it anyway, right?
yeah,
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 as
yeah,
we all
yeah.
do.
And I was like, oh, it's just because I'm in college and I'm tired and
I'm just tired. It's just this deadline I have. Push
yeah.
through it. Yeah.
But
Yeah, the lies we tell ourselves when we're in
yes.
denial.
I feel like I've been focusing more on like movement that just like gives me joy. So I like been playing around with like aerial,
Hmm.
lyra hoop and stuff because it's just
Mm.
like
Yeah, those are fun.
stuff that doesn't feel like a workout right now feels the most like um positive for me sometimes. Also because I work in it. So, like every day it just like it, I've been doing it a while, so it gets tiring, like doing the same kind of motions.
Right. Yeah, I think there's also a mental thing to it's not just managing your energy, it's not just energy conservation, it's not just fatigue physically, but I think we really downplay the mental aspect of it as well. Like we think it's just like, oh, I have the energy, I should be fine. But like mentally, that shit could be tiring. Like,
Hmm.
let's say you spent 3 hours fucking loading plates and unloading plates. Like mentally, you just might be like, I can't fucking touch a plate today. Like I'm done with that, you know?
Oh yeah. The
Like
social
that's
aspect of it
huge.
too.
Yeah.
Because like I'm ultimately an introverted person, so training for
Mhm.
me, there's the physical element that's
It's like
exhausting.
an effort.
Yeah, I have
Yeah.
to be turned on. I have to be aware and like there the whole
Mhm.
time. And when you have brain fog, it's really hard to do that. So then you're
Yeah.
working twice as
It's
hard.
twice as hard. It's the introvert, like, oh, I have to, be
Yeah.
people facing, and then also I have to fake being well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. And
it's double the
sometimes
work.
like I had some sessions this morning and it was like that where as soon as the sessions were over, I just like passed out because
Yeah,
I like it was like I was fighting through the remaining little bits like because of all
right.
all that struggle physically, emotionally, everything.
It's tough. It's definitely tough. Yeah, the mental, like, so sometimes I might have the energy to do some barbell lift or whatever, but like mentally, I'm like, if I have to fucking pick up a bar and adjust a rack, I can't do it. like,
Totally.
like that just could be the barrier. I gotta put on I gotta change my shirt so I can put on a bra. Nope.
That happens even sometimes with training for me. And like I originally wanted to do like this, maybe like have the client do this lift or something, but like I do not feel like setting that up right now. Like I
Yeah.
do not want to set up a barbell and plates because it ends up mostly being me like racking, putting the weights on and everything. I'm
Yeah,
just
of
like, fuck,
course.
I'm like, okay, we're gonna do something else that works the same muscles because I can't today.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a more even in the moment of training for you, definitely. Work wise for me, so I'm a physical therapist. I don't know if I actually said that out loud, but I used to work with adults and I realized that I can't do that because I liked working with adults, which required, like you said, being on and faking being well. That was too much. But then I also liked working with like neurological folks, and that is hefty. Like spinal cord injury, like wheelchair users, and you're like, hoisting them up, standing them up, and like working with them to do like gravity defying shit. And like I had to come to terms. I'm like, this is actually not safe. Like I'm struggling here. Like I could hurt somebody and hurt myself.
Yeah.
That was hard
Yeah,
to
no,
accept.
it's frustrating because you want to do it, but you're
Yeah.
fighting with your body.
Yeah. So in person now, I just work with kids. Kids are the best. You don't have to fake shit. I just show up. Like if I don't want to talk that day, they don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
They're talking for me. Like they're not just like, oh, what's going on today? Are you mad at me? Like
Yeah.
they're just like, today I drew a cloud and the cloud had purple swirls. And I'm just like, cool kid, keep going.
There you go. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. Yeah,
So
luckily my sessions are pretty casual, so a lot of them are like become friends and things. So I can be
right.
like, "Hey, I'm not doing great today, so I'm not gonna be like very excitable." And they're like, "Cool, we get it." So like usually I
Yeah.
can be pretty clear and upfront with clients, but uh, I
Yeah.
still feel that guilt of like I need to be this certain person right now.
Yeah, well, I mean that's like the hardwired, and you're trying to work to reprogram that. So, I mean, it's great once you're in the environment that you have the space to look at it and be like, all right, let me look at these things that are like holding me back and work on it. But like, you still gotta work on it. Like,
Yeah.
mm, it's not easy.
I
Like, that
know.
part is some shit. What was I gonna ask you? Now I just lost it. Okay, so you went to school for sculpture. Now we have a gym. We train people, and now we have a community space. Are there sculptures there? What are you sculpturing? What's the verb? What do you?
Well, it's a pretty broad thing. A lot of it came to play with like I built like a stage and I sewed all these like iridescent covers for these like booth seats that I
Okay.
acquired through like an auction. And I added
Ooh.
like bottons to those and wheels. So it's a lot of just like random things, figuring out how to like put them together or like make something. Um, I lately have been into doing like neon lights with fur. So I do like these fur wall pieces where it's almost like climbing across the wall and then like a neon light integrated in it. So
Ooh, that sounds
I
cool as shit.
did thank you. Yeah, I did that with a big neon moon and then integrated fiber optic lights throughout the fur so they twinkle like stars. So there's like
Mm-hmm.
430 of those.
Mm,
Um, so in the new space, it's definitely a lot of me just being like having ideas and be like, yes, put it in here because why not? So like um it's like this play zone for me where like
right.
making these visual things that then like other people get to enjoy too. And then also like the sculptural elements came into like the other space. Like I've mounted and like put things on the wall and built stuff like pretty much by myself. Like I'll get like hands to help, but like I
Mm-hmm.
do pretty much all of the like labor and things um around the
Okay.
spaces. So in a way, like the sculpture uh degree was like extremely practical because it like taught me how to do like things like use saws and drills and how to weld
Right.
and like
Right.
things that like having that
It made you
knowledge.
like an artsy handyman.
Yeah, I have this little thing that says handy ma'am
Yeah,
and
that's
I'm like
cute.
that's me. So I just kind of like because of that, then it makes it more doable for these things because I don't need to pay someone to make this thing or like, paint the floors or build the stage. And so that makes like on a very small budget, these things more doable too.
Yeah, more doable. And it's also that factor of things that bring you joy, like waking up and being like, I made this space, I'm sure is like a good
Yeah, and
feeling.
well, when I can get in that like flow state that comes to the art, it's one of the few times where like sometimes I can lose track of like my symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
Though like when I come out of the flow state, it like hits me like a train, but like it's one of the few times I feel like I can like kind of leave reality for a little bit and just like, really like be there in person without
The rest of it.
um yeah, the rest of it exactly.
Yeah. No, I understand that. That makes sense to me. That's all very interesting. So you said in the environment doesn't make a huge deal to you. Did you always live in the area you live in? Like, could you go somewhere that's super hot or super snowing or
Oh, gotcha. When you asked earlier, I thought you meant like the workout environment.
oh, like the
Um,
vibes?
yeah, like the
No,
vibe,
I mean nature. My bad. Yeah.
nature. Um, it really can depend. Definitely like hot days, real sleepy days, that kind of thing. I think actually sometimes like, well, so I'm in Virginia and I grew up in North Carolina, so it's not that super different, like
Hmm.
weather-wise.
It's not muggier in North. I just
It
assumed
was like a little bit warmer where I was,
it'd be more
but
humid.
otherwise they're pretty equally humid. It just definitely is like it's like 4 hours from here where I lived,
Okay.
so it's
Oh
not like
yeah,
a
it's not that
huge
far. Yeah.
distance. So like sometimes the biggest thing that affects me is actually like weather change, not so much like just like the
Mm.
environment. I like notice strongly a big change in my energy levels when like like icky weather is coming on. So like the last
Right.
few days, I have just been like struggling because it's been rainy and just like
Like when there's just
cloudy
a
and
random like drop in temperature and then it just totally shifts, that kind of thing.
yeah, like anytime
Yeah.
when like that shift or it's like prolonged for several days, like I can feel that really impact me. And especially like here lately, the weather's been really weird. Like
Hmm.
we had like a day last month that was in the 80s, which is really weird in February in
Yeah.
Virginia. And then versus this week, we've had days that are in the 30s and like so it's like that's been really weird for my body. But in terms of like environment, I don't know. I mean, if I was exposed to like something I'm not used to, like
Right.
I haven't experienced dry heat, so like maybe something like that would be
You're
a
not
strange
sure.
experience, but I wouldn't say like more than just like sleepiness with like heat, you know.
That's interesting. So the fact that it could bother you and whatever, like what do they consider narcolepsy? Do they just call it a sleeping disorder or do they call it,
It,
like what do they call it?
so they've learned some things. They're now kind of classifying it as an autoimmune disease because what they think is happening is that the body is destroying these important like chemicals in your brain that help to regulate your sleep
Yeah, that
cycles.
makes sense.
So there's one way they can like you don't want to do this because it's really painful, but you can get like your spinal fluid tapped and they
Oh
can
yeah, I've done
see,
that.
oh, how's that?
Not great. Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree.
They
Not
can
fun.
they can like check the levels for that, which
Hmm.
isn't always you can still have narcolepsy and have normal levels of that. It's called like hypocretin, I think.
Right. So it's not
Um,
really
but
sensitive.
primarily they think it's tied to that. And so it's like autoimmune potentially. The problem is like they're not entirely sure like how it's developed. There's evidence of it being genetic, but there's also evidence of it being related to like traumatic head wounds and then even like the swine
Hmm.
flu as well.
Hmm.
So it's possible like maybe as a kid, like I got a strain of swine flu that then like activated something that developed in my adulthood.
Yeah. But they're
Or
so behind on autoimmune conditions in general,
yeah,
because it mostly affects people with uteruses and like, who gives a shit? But like that's pretty much what can happen. So when people say things like anyone could be disabled at any time, I think a lot of people just picture, oh, car accident, oh, falls, right? But it's like, nah, dude, like if you have something in your genetics that's like ready to blow and
yeah,
you have a pregnancy or you have COVID really bad or swine flu or whatever, like that could do it. Like
totally.
I still can't figure out like what turned it on for me. Like nothing really happened to me.
Well, in some things, it may not be a trigger. Like with
Yeah.
narcolepsy, it's common for it to kind of develop in like mid-teens to like your 30s in that time
Mm,
frame. And it could just like develop one day and not have a trigger necessarily. Um, the
wild.
problem is it's just like too misunderstood right now, or not misunderstood, but just not well understood. Um,
Yeah. It's under researched
yeah,
and
it's like
not well
there's
developed.
no cure and there's not really a great way of managing it. So right now, basically, they give you like stimulants of different forms to try to manage it. And as someone with anxiety, that has been a nightmare. Doesn't
Oh,
go well together.
that's interesting.
Um, yeah. Well, and then also there's like not a lot of studies actually about like some of the things that I have issues with. So like I've been trying to look into like more information around like how it affects fitness recovery and just like muscle discomfort and things because I find sometimes like my muscles are just hurting and I haven't even like done anything and like
Right.
um and I've tried to research it and there just isn't really studies around
Yeah.
that and
Nobody's looking it up.
and of course like other circumstances that haven't been looked into. So it's like there's other factors that I might have going on that I don't even like know
Hmm.
about. Um yeah, so hopefully though they're getting some I think there was like a grant or something, a big grant recently for research into narcolepsy um to help get better like treatments. Just because like right now, like even the medicines I have, or help very minimally. Like
Right. But I
they
mean,
can
if it's
help.
not fixing the problem, which is the sleep, which is like the main thing, right? It's like it's just helping you survive the day, but your sleep is
Yes.
still fucked.
Yeah.
Okay,
And there's
yeah,
nothing I
that's not
can,
helpful.
yeah, I mean, there's nothing really, I mean, there's things I can do to make it not as bad. So, like,
Right.
again, like consistent, like a sleep schedule, going to sleep at the same time, waking up at the same time, like,
Right. You
like
can do your
take,
best.
not drinking before bed, things like that, like, can still make a big difference. But, otherwise, it's like my sleep's gonna be fucked anyway. So, like, um, yeah. One thing too,
Yikes.
like I don't understand is the correlation between it and food because I have a really big issue where if I'm not frequently eating, I like have like a drop in blood sugar or something where I'm
Mm-hmm.
just like I can't move. I'm like so exhausted. And I've had like things checked and everything. I'm not anemic or anything.
Yeah. Your
Um,
labs are normal. Everything's fine. Good
so
news.
but there's no research around that because they like in other cases, for some people, food makes them sleep or makes them sleepy. Whereas for me, I'm like, oh, I actually need to eat now. I feel better. Um, so there's stuff too that I'm like, I don't even know. Like,
Right. What does this mean? Is this narcolepsy? Is this just me? Like, yeah,
I'm
I'm sure that doesn't
sensitive.
even help you figure that part out. That part's probably
Yeah.
confusing. Yeah.
Oh, and literally, I've been in the doctor's office and watched him like Google something in front of me when I asked a question. And he pulls up like a website. I'm like, I literally have read that website. Like,
Yeah.
and then you're gonna charge like $200 for this visit. It's
Yeah.
like makes me so
Yikes.
angry.
Is there what do they call them? Center of excellence? Like is there like a place that's like hardcore we know about narcolepsy in the US?
I don't know about in the US, maybe.
Yeah.
There are like sleep centers, but like I have to go to a sleep specialist for this, but it's still just like not, at least the no one that I'm working with seems to be specialized in narcolepsy.
Mm-hmm.
I would assume there's probably different
Someplace somewhere.
places in the country at this point. Since there is like more, there's like I follow a few different like accounts on Instagram that are for
Mm-hmm.
like narcolepsy awareness and things. So I know that there's been a big effort to bring about the awareness of it. So I would assume there's got to be at least like one, I hope.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, well, like all of the disorders that I may or may not have, like I know that they have, like UM has a sarcoidosis center, and you would figure that basically, like if you go there, they all know about your condition, but maybe, hopefully. But I've never been somebody that's like traveled for that kind of shit. Or like I know like John
Yeah.
Hopkins has like a Sjogren's center, like, and you like go there and you're supposed to spend like a day and see like five people. But I've never actually talked to someone that's done that kind of shit. Like I really wonder if it makes a difference.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
would
I don't
love to
know.
know.
Like if it was like when I was getting diagnosed and everything, that would have been great. Because also
Yeah.
like they don't, there's like so much of the emotional like component that you need support with that like they
Yeah.
don't have systems in place for you in that way. Like,
Yeah,
at
you're
least
at the
not like this
mercy of the
sleep
level
specialist
of
here.
like you're at the mercy of the level of ableism that that person has unpacked or just left untouched.
Yep.
Yeah.
I've actually changed doctors too because my first one was just the worst. It felt like I was like talking to a wall. Like when I
Hmm.
first tried the first medicine he gave me, I was like, I am dying. Like this is making my anxiety go through the roof. Like I'm having panic attacks. Like I'd rather be tired
Mm.
than this. And he
Yikes.
was just like, that's weird. And I was like, okay, I'm sorry.
Are
Like
you
this
gonna
is my
help me or
experience.
not?
Yeah. And like also, why is it like upsetting my stomach? I feel like I need to shit like so much. Like it was like
Yeah.
disrupting everything. And he was like, I don't know, maybe you should try chia seeds. And I was like,
Thanks. Thanks,
okay.
bud.
Like,
Thanks.
yeah.
Ooh, yeah. I feel like there's so much bullshit with the way that medication is prescribed, and that also definitely causes me to change doctors a lot because, like, if you don't even understand the side effects of the medication you're giving, like, what the fuck are you doing?
right?
Like, what
Or
are you?
like,
That should be it's like bare minimum doctoring, right?
or not taking serious like my complaints of like the way it's making me feel,
Yeah,
just you're like,
nobody ever does.
just
Yeah.
because it's not a common side effect doesn't mean it's not a valid experience that I'm having, you
Mm-hmm.
know. As like who knows who were the sample people that you used for, that testing.
Yeah, they're usually not people like us. And that's kind of my problem with getting diagnosed right now is a lot of these autoimmune conditions have criteria that are based on like postmenopausal, like already fucking wrecked to the point of can't move people. Like, how are you comparing that to a 30 something that's still up and about, but like things aren't right, you know? Like,
Yeah,
it's not the same
totally.
thing.
And oh, my birds just arrived apparently. Sorry.
Hello, bird.
Wait, do you want to see her? This is Lolly.
She just pulled up.
Yeah. She kind of goes where
Wow.
she wants sometimes. She's dancing for you.
Oh, so
Yeah.
she's just free. Like she doesn't
Well,
stay
when
in
I'm
the
home, I
thing.
try to keep her out. She just took a bath, so um
That's
yeah,
cute.
she's my little nap buddy. Her favorite thing to say right now is, "Are you sleepy?"
Oh my gosh.
And I'm like, "Yes, always sleepy."
Oh, I love it. Oh man. That's lovely. Um, so we're coming up on like about an hour. Is there anything that we didn't talk about that you were like, I gotta get this off my chest? Did we miss anything?
Um, I don't think we missed anything, but I do want to say, like, if something feels off, you know, like you're valid, and sometimes it shouldn't be our job, but sometimes doing a little research might lead you down a path that like the doctors aren't helping you with. Because it was Reddit that helped me get my diagnosis because no doctor
Mm-hmm.
sent me to a sleep study. I scheduled it myself after
Yeah,
researching. So yeah, I guess just like I want to validate how people are feeling.
definitely. And they'll put you down and be like, oh, did you Google that? But motherfucker, you using the same search engine as
Yeah.
me. What you mean? I Googled it just like you did. The fuck? Yeah. Yeah, we shouldn't have to do it, but we are doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, we're the experts of our bodies, and honestly, for so many disabled people, we are like a little case study or research whatever, like of our actual condition, like near expert level. It shouldn't
For
be, but
Yeah, exactly.
it
But I
definitely gets
think
there.
I'm really glad at least now we have like these online communities where we can share that experience. Like that's been
Yeah.
really nice to be like go on there and see other people having like shared experiences. So like that's where I've like asked some questions for other
Hmm.
people who have done like lifting sports and how it affects them and their narcolepsy and things. So like luckily there are like communities there, but
Yeah, that's helpful, is the
yeah.
online stuff. And it's great that there are multiple venues now, because I feel like when I was first looking things up and like dealing with being sick, there was pretty much just like patient forums that were diagnosis specific, and it was just like people just complaining and like whining, but there was no like actual support. There was nothing like, oh, this is what I did and it helped me. It was just like everything sucks and everything sucks and everything sucks. I'm like, okay, this is not really
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sorry it sucks for me too, but this isn't really, I didn't come to cry in a circle. I could do that at home.
Totally. Yeah, there's actually like there's like this narcolepsy like website where people post sometimes they can post like treatments that have worked really well for them. So then other
Mm,
people who are part of it can see it and
I like that.
like a space for us to all kind of document, I guess, process part of a process that might be able to like help each other and
I
get more
like that.
research that way too.
Is that the Reddit or is that something else?
That's something else. It's called like it has narcolepsy in the name. I
Well
can
done.
assume
Amazing.
that much.
Amazing
Um
work.
um
Okay, well, figure it out. And
yeah.
even though we don't have the name now, we'll put it in the show notes at least.
Yes. Yeah.
We'll get it by
It's somewhere
then.
in my emails where I get like updates all the time, but um
Okay.
I think
That's
it's a
cool.
website that does more than just narcolepsy. I think they have other like categories that
Hmm.
are these kind of like communities and groups.
Oh,
So
it's not Inspire, is it? No.
I don't think so.
Okay. I see
I
that
might
one.
be wrong though. I can send it to you when I have a chance to find it.
Yeah, that's fine. You can send it to me. So where can the peoples find you and your businesses online?
Yeah, well, if you're interested in the gym space, it's called Body Arc. So BODYARC, RVA, so Richmond, Virginia. So you can find us on Instagram. I'm pretty sure it's like body underscore arc underscore RVA. And then the other space is called Crescent Collective, like Crescent Moon.
Mm,
And that one is RVA Crescent Collective. So
okay,
yeah.
fancy.
So
Fancy,
we're just
fancy. And do you
having
have a
fun.
is your personal page open or is it like
Well, there's that too. I didn't want to overwhelm everybody with everything, but
okay.
there's also my personal one, which is the brand flake with a D.
Okay.
The so it's a gosh, sorry, my dyslexic brain's like, oh, I hate when I have to spell out loud. It's TheBrandFlake. So that's where I just dilly dally and exist as myself.
Yeah. Alrighty.
Bird stories and such.
Bird stories and such. So there we have it. Gym things, narcolepsy, and Brandi
Birds.
doing all the things, and birds.
Yeah.
And hopefully no longer getting amped up on her stimulants.
Oh man,
Oh my God.
sometimes my anxiety, I had to like me and Lolly just like jump around. Like, okay, I gotta expend some energy right now because I'm so
That
anxious.
sounds so terrible. That's
Ugh.
fucked up. That is such a fucked up
It's so annoying. It's like one minute
like
I'm so
dichotomy to deal
tired,
with.
and the next I'm like,
Yeah,
stop.
like where are your ancestors at? We just need to talk. Like, can we talk about the genetics here?
Man.
That's how I feel. Cause my shit's all fucked up. But
I was like,
anyways.
I feel you.
But anyways, yeah, follow Brandi, follow Body Arc, follow Crescent Collective, and yeah, nice talking to you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Disabled Girls out.
Yeah.